The king of no money down, the millionaire maker of Asia, the one, the only Michael Tan.
I worked hard in a job, I worked 9 to 5, and then I realized one day when I woke up that this is not really something that I wanted to do. I went on this crazy journey of entrepreneurship. I read this book called Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki, and I started to believe there was this alternate life that I could really have. Not knowing that when I jumped into this, I would experience all the crazy stuff that made me who I am today. So I started this with putting some savings into a business, right? And I started from really ground zero, not knowing anything about business and starting from that point on. And I want to share with you this first. I did make a lot of money then. I actually made tons of good money in my first business, right? But I also learned the word responsibility huge. Because in that first business, I made the most amount of massive failures until today. I was not responsible for my customers, and therefore I got involved in this scam that my business was with. I had people, which were my business partners, take money away from my customers and left me into huge amount of trouble. And towards the end of this whole thing, left me losing my $1 million business. I had a huge debt that I had to pay. And I had two things that I remember during that time that made me who I am today. The first was this incident. I was at 3 o'clock in the morning one day, after many months of depression and losing everything. I thought to myself, looking down at the highway below, that I might as well just end my life because I wasn't worth anything at that point. I didn't feel, I was so poor, I was so in debt that I didn't know how to get out of it, that maybe at that point, if I just jump and just end everything, you know, the misery I felt, it would just leave everyone better off. Then the second thing happened was when the moment before I jumped, I told myself to give myself one more last chance. I told myself to go out there and try this one more time in my life, but not just to create that wealth for me. This time not for me, but for a better life for my family, a better life for my wife, for my kid, a better life for my team then, a better life for my customers then. So that was my real true starting point of property investment. I saved up $4,000. And with 1,200 ringgit and $4,000 in my bank, I bought my first house then, and it was a low cost. A 65,000 ringgit low cost. It's a cheap apartment. It was so cheap that I didn't want to go and see it, but I humbled myself down to go out there to buy it, right? And I learned from that point. From that one first low-cost apartment, I learned how to go and hone my skills to become a damn good investor. I learned the tricks of doing how to do no money down, how to create wealth using leverage from banks responsibly. I bought those low costs coming in. I bought 7 of them within that first year. And with that kind of money, it changed my life. From 1,200, I started to make 3,000, 5,000 ringgit, all right, per month. I started to accumulate capital in my bank, all right, which I made up about more than $100,000. And by using that, I started to grow on my next journey. I never stopped. And then I started to buy the condominiums. Then I started to buy the houses. Then I started to buy the office blocks. And I started to buy my $1 million properties. And I started to rise to where I am today. So it was step-by-step hard work to get to be where an investor I am today. And I can tell you one thing right now, I cherished every single moment of that growth until where I am. Because what I have learned is I've learned a few things. Number one, how to get it fundamentally right. I told myself ever since the first failure of my business that I will have no shortcuts in my life. And so I grew from property investment in what I call the right way. Positive cash flows, responsibility towards the properties, understanding the numbers, growing towards it and accumulating that wealth. I've kept that in until today. And step 2 was to focus on how to build myself up to become rich in my life again, right? So it wasn't just about knowing the knowledge, but also building me internally, because I promised myself that the moment that I became rich and I did it the right way, I would go back and help as many people as I can do the same thing. Okay, that was the legacy I wanted to start. So many people who ask this right now and watch me on videos to say where I got this from, I got this from the fact that I was a poor man, and I will not be shy to tell you I was a failure in my life before, I was a depressed person in life before. I was a bad business person before, right? I was in the con business before. I was in a business that cheated people money before, which I was part of that business that made massive failures before in my life. So if anything else, what I am is I'm a massive failure first, and I accept that in my life, right? And it's because of all this massive failure that I overcame in my life, and I overcame with true grit, true determination, through passion, knowing what I really wanted to do to grow to where I am today. I am now who I am.